Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am diving into my faves from
eons ago.
all over again. If diving into some old favorites sounds like something that you're interested in, please keep on watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I'm a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. I also work in the beauty industry as a field leader for Ulta Beauty, and I get a lot of education in my position. I like to bring you that education here on my channel, but ultimately, I'm just here because I like to talk about makeup, and none of these boys in my house want to talk about makeup with me. So my 11-year-old does, but she's just starting to like really dabble into doing her own makeup. So that's always fun. But with that said, you people are my people that I come to talk to. So I hope that sounds like fun to you and something that you're interested in. And I hope that you'll want to subscribe before you go. With that said, let's roll into this deep dive into some old favorites. I used to do a series on my channel every month coming to you talking about some faves and flops that I've had over the month, and I haven't done favorites in such a long time, and the biggest reason why is because I just ultimately decided that doing the monthly was silly because I soon forgot about it the next month as I was moving through. There wasn't very often a product that stuck with me for an extended period of time. The biggest reason why is because when I was doing the faves and flops on my channel, I wasn't working in the makeup industry yet, but I had just started doing makeup on myself. Prior to that point, I actually really wore nothing. So at this point in the game of life for me, makeup was all very new and everything was my favorite, and I hadn't really distinguished an aesthetic for myself, but I also really hadn't distinguished a baseline of what my expectations were for beauty and what they were not. So it's really interesting to look at this list and go, wow, this is who I was back then. I don't do faves and flops on my channel anymore. I just don't use any one thing. I don't feel like enough to justify coming to you and telling you it's a favorite, number one, but also number two, I would be telling you the same thing over and over and over again. I guess I could do what I've been using lately a lot, but not really a favorites thing. But I have pulled for you way back in the Wayback Machine from June and July of 2018, the products that I had in faves and flops, and I want to run through them with you. So let's get started in that. There is a lot to go over with you, but I do think that this is not going to be a hugely long video. You know, it'll probably, again, I just like to talk about makeup. So all right, so for June 2018, I did have 3 flops in that video. I had the Makeup Forever Step 1 primer. I'm just really not sure why I didn't like that primer. If I remember correctly, I felt like it mattified my skin too much. But also at that time, I wasn't wearing a foundation. So if it mattified my skin too much, I also wasn't doing great skincare. It just probably exacerbated all the texture, all the dry skin I had on my face, and I didn't love it. I also had on there these red and black Halloween lashes that I had used. I mean, they were from the Halloween store, from Spirit Halloween, so it wasn't like they were like Ardell's or anything like that. They were just, I also didn't wear lashes. I'm wearing lashes today. I've worn lashes so much lately that I'm actually kind of shocking myself because I'm not a lash girl, but I'm starting to feel like I could become one. And then the Ardell magnetic lashes. The Ardell magnetic lashes were the lashes that had the 2 strips that you were supposed to push together, and I couldn't figure them out. They would always end up like halfway off of my natural lash, so I'm not a lash girl, so there's that. And in July I didn't have any flops, which I'm like, really? There was nothing that you used in July that you didn't love? I don't believe you, Donna. But with that said, I did have a ton of faves between the 2 months, and I only have a handful of them that I still have and love. Let me scooch so I can put some pictures up here. I did have the Dr. Brandt Pore Dermabrasion on here. What I loved about this is it felt like it was not super harsh to my skin. I think at that point I was just starting to get into skincare and I didn't really know a lot. And Dr. Brandt had at that point in time been one of my favorite skincare brands. I still like this Pore Dermabrasion if I get it in, like, say a FabFitFun or something like that. I do think that I got this one in a BoxyCharm. I would still use it. I do like it, but I do also have much better exfoliating products in my skincare routine these days. I really, really love the Dermalogica products, the whole brand. So I wouldn't go out and purchase this, but I also don't have any ill will or any kind of ill feelings about it. I would still use it if it came into my life again. The Algenist Regenerist Moisturizer was also another favorite of mine, and I remember going to TJ Maxx and searching for this product because I could find it online, but I didn't want to pay the, like, I don't know, $68 that it was. And that one that I was using then I had found at TJ Maxx. And I actually had a friend, Jackie, who was working at TJ Maxx, and she would hunt it down for me and call me up when they had gotten some new in. So I would purchase it from them. I have found moisturizers that I love far more than I loved this one. So I do think that this is a great moisturizer, but I think that the only reason why I thought it was as good as it was back then is because it was the only moisturizer, high-end moisturizer that I had in my collection that I was using. I was getting it for super cheap. The sun is coming in real hard right here. The e.l.f. Eye Balm Remover Stick, you guys, I still have this. So this is, I mean, all it says on the bottom is Dark Star, which is so weird because I really didn't know what this was in my collection. I think as soon as I put it into this Faves or Flops video, it escaped my memory. I think this is in my inventory as a lipstick primer. No wonder nothing was going on over the top of it because it's a damn remover stick. So here's what I will say though. This is what I've got left. This is the one that was in rotation then. It's a remover stick. I thought it was a lip primer though, so I guess I should have gotten rid of it a lot sooner, but it doesn't stink. It doesn't have any kind of smell on it. And now that I know what it's actually for, I will start using it as such, but it's almost gone at this point. I don't know. I mean, maybe initially I was using it as a takeoff balm, but these days I've been using it as a lip primer occasionally and quit using it because nothing was sticking to it. Now I know why. These are the days of my life. Now I know what it's for, so we'll see. Over the last probably 2 years, I could say I hated that product, but again, I thought it was a lip primer. That's what I was using it as, and it didn't work for poop. No wonder. I also had Baddington lashes on here. These were a pair of lashes that were sent in a BoxyCharm, and I really did love them. This time frame was my first deep dive into lashes, and these Baddington lashes, I remember trying and wearing and cutting apart and getting, I think I probably got 90 uses out of these things before I finally threw them away, but I had used them until I couldn't use them as a whole anymore and then cut them up into pieces and then use those pieces just to, oh my gosh, I played a lot with these lashes and they were what I deemed my practice lashes, and those practice lashes were like $28 for a pair of lashes, but I got them in BoxyCharm, so I didn't think anything of it. I really did like these lashes. They were nice lashes. I also have on here the Becca Backlight primer. I love that primer. It's a beautiful primer, and I would still purchase it if it were out there to be purchased. Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. I still have this as a product. Sorry, you guys, the shadows. The sun is beaming off of our barbecue out there and just hitting me in just the right spots. I still have the Complexion Rescue. This is actually one of my favorite products as far as foundation goes. It's a tinted hydrator. It is a cream formula, so it's got a little bit of a moussey, thicker texture, but it is so good to the skin and looks so beautiful on. So it is something that I love. I have it currently in natural, but I've also used it in buff. At one point in time, I had like 3 different shades in my collection, and I've used, I think that's my 4th one in my collection. I've used all of the ones that were in my collection up. There was never any like decluttering of them. I love that product. It doesn't get talked about enough. Honestly, Bare Minerals doesn't get talked about enough in my humble opinion, but this is a really good tinted moisturizer, and more so, it's a tinted hydrating gel cream, so I continue to call it a tinted moisturizer, but it's more than that. It is definitely like a low coverage skin tint, lower coverage skin tint than say my Fenty skin tint, but higher coverage skin tint than a tinted moisturizer. But it's also really good to your skin. Maybelline Tattoo Studio Brow Gel. Let me just tell you guys, this was quite possibly the worst brow gel I had ever tried in my life. Why? Now thinking back on it, why I thought it was amazing is probably because it stayed forever and I didn't have to do anything with my brows, but it was like on like a dough foot, and you like put it into your brows, and then even when you washed it away, it stayed. And here's the thing with that. Like, that could be all fine and good, but the problem with that is that when you're new in makeup, I didn't start doing my makeup until a year before this. When you're new in makeup, don't know anything about eyebrows, and you put that stuff into your eyebrows, when you take it off, it stains your skin. So if you accidentally, I don't know, give yourself, remnants of a unibrow, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that, specifically since I also wasn't wearing foundation at this point. Like covering it up, I knew nothing. So why this showed up on my favorites list, I will never know. All right, I had one of my big burly boys go move the barbecue, so it wasn't beaming into this room. The next one I have on here is the NYX Precision Brow Pencil, and I still have a NYX Precision Brow Pencil. This isn't the same brow pencil. I go through brow pencils. Back in the day, I used to go through brow pencils pretty quickly. This one I do think has been in my collection for quite some time. These are not bad brow pencils. I think what I loved the most about them is they are like so thin and really do help create a stroke that looks very hair-like. I also love the spoolies on the end of these pencils because they do come to a point. I don't mind the NYX brow pencils, the Precision Brow, because they don't pull out my hairs in the way that the ABH ones were when I first started. Those are a little bit more firm and a lot more waxy than I feel like these ones were. These aren't my favorite, but they are good in a pinch. They're a really decent price point. I think they're like $10 for a brow product, and they come in multiple different shades, and I really do like them. Obviously, it's still in my collection, so it is still one that I would use. The next thing I have on here is the IT Superhero Liner. This was my favorite liner for multiple reasons. Number one, it was black. Number two, at this point in time, I had just learned or was just learning how to do a winged eyeliner. And the way this pen was shaped really suited the need in my hand for learning. It had a little bit of a thicker bottom to it and a really thin like midsection, so it fit in my hand really nicely. There wasn't like, any chance of it moving and bobbling around in my hand while I was trying to learn how to do a wing liner. It was just really thin tipped, really beautiful. It had a nice tapered tip to it so that I could like stamp it on and then bring it through. There is another eyeliner pen in here that I had the same like mentality toward. Yeah, it's in my July favorites. It was the like Ardell or something like that. Not Ardell, but it was like some off-brand. I got it at TJ Maxx Double Trouble. It had a fat end and a thin end. This one was the best of both of those pens in one. it was just really super expensive. So I really did love this liner and would repurchase it. Last I saw, they were changing the component of it, which is part of why I loved this pen. But I also have a ton of liquid eyeliners that I really, really love that took its place. So MAC Soft and Gentle. So this was something that, and I still have it, you guys, and yes, this is the one. And I love this powder. It is just such a beautiful, I do feel like mine is, you know, too old. At one point, you really do realize that your stuff is just too old. I do think that it is beautiful. I don't know if you can see it there, but it is beautiful. It had a really beautiful reflect to it. When I first got this, I thought it was an all over the face powder. So I was highlighting my whole damn face and wasn't wearing any complexion products again. I think this is a nice enough or muted enough or subdued enough highlight that it's just such a natural glow that it gives you to the face. And I think that that's why I really, really found myself in love with it, because it gave my skin such a wonderful, beautiful, natural glow all over. And I liked that. It made my skin look healthy. I still like that highlight, but I now use it as a highlight, not as an all over the face powder. I also had the Smashbox Fishnet eyeliner. I do believe this is the second one, not the first one that I used. I think the first one I had was all black. I do believe. I would have to go back and watch this video, but you can see where this is, and this was a full size. The Smashbox Always On is one of my favorite eyeliner formulas, so I do feel like they stay on the lid always. I love to tight line with them. They go nowhere. They're not flaky. They're not super tuggy. This is my favorite still eyeliner formula for kohl eyeliners. The next thing was the Fenty Highlight in Fire Crystal. This was, I do believe, my very first Fenty product, and I think that you can see that there is pan in this product, and it's this guy over here. There is pan in this product. It was my favorite, is my favorite. I still love this to this day. The highlight on it is just, again, it's one of those subtle highlights, but super impactful and just beautiful. I really still love this highlight, and it will stay in my collection until it is not as beautiful anymore. I love Fenty as a brand, except for eyeshadows. I hate the Fenty eyeshadows, but almost everything else I've tried from Fenty is just real phenomenal. Still love that. Now, the ColourPop My Little Pony palette is a palette that I got in a BoxyCharm, and it is not necessarily a favorite palette for me anymore, but this color story is not that bad. It is really, really beautiful. Some of these lighter shades are just gorgeous, like this one here. Just such a really pretty light blue. I was just blown away by this palette. This one is the lavender one. I think this is my second adventure into ColourPop, and I did love this color story. I did love playing with this palette, but this is a palette that I haven't picked up probably since I put it into the favorites in this video. Maybe once or twice, but you can see it's a very well-loved palette. I did have a good time with this palette. We'll probably honestly end up putting it into my nostalgia drawer when I do my palette declutters, because it's not a palette that I use anymore, and I don't think that I will probably ever put those shadows on my eyes again. I have formulas that I love so much more than ColourPop these days. I will probably not wear those shadows ever again, and they are rather old in my collection, so I'll probably put it into my nostalgia drawer. I was so excited to get that palette in BoxyCharm though. I remember getting that into my collection. And this is the Alamar Reina del Caribe Volume 1 palette, and I did actually a collab with this palette with a friend of mine here on the space. I don't know that she's recording anymore. I go to her page quite often. I've watched all of her videos that are currently up, but she does post on Instagram a lot. Her name is Lisa, I've done many a collab with Lisa. This was one of them. This was also just such a beautiful eyeshadow palette. I remember unboxing this in that BoxyCharm video and swatching these shimmers, and at the time these shimmers were the best shimmers that I had ever seen in my life. And I mean, they're still really good, right? This one probably not. They're really super powdery right now. You can tell that the eyeshadow has turned at this point, but man, such a beautiful palette. Also got a lot of love in my collection because, I mean, look at the color story. It is just a really beautiful, neutral, easy to use color story. So loved this palette, still love that palette, but it definitely isn't getting used these days in my collection. So then we move into July. Like I said, I had 0 flops in July, which kind of shocks me, but I did have a ton of faves, and one of those things was a travel mirror that I had purchased, and I actually did love that mirror, but I left it in a hotel room really quickly after starting this job, so I only had it in my collection for like a year before I lost it. And then I also had a toothbrush, which I think is the toothbrush I'm still currently using. It's the Genius something toothbrush that I'm not going to bring it in here because it's a toothbrush and that feels weird. I still have that toothbrush. I love it. I also had the Foreo Mini on here, which I still have. It's in my bathroom, but my daughter uses it now for cleansing her skin. I do like to use it to cleanse my skin, but I also have other tools that I'm using these days. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I think what I really loved it for is it had these like 2 like metal buttons on the back, and you pushed them onto your skin, and then the app read your skin, like what's going on with your skin to you. And I don't use the app anymore, so it doesn't feel like it's got a purpose anymore that my hands can't also do. This one was on this list, which kind of surprised me that I've been using this for this long, but I think I first got this in a BoxyCharm, so it makes sense. I love this stuff. This is the Brioche Don't Despair Repair Deep Conditioning Hair Mask. Now, the one that I had was in a squeezy tube because it came from BoxyCharm, and this one is new. I haven't even opened it up yet, but it is a wonderful hair mask, and the reason why I like it is because at that point in time I loved it because we were using the pool a lot, and it was turning my daughter, who has really super fine strawberry blonde hair, it was turning her hair into straw. And this was really the only thing that I could use in her hair that was reviving it and making it live for one more day. I love this hair mask though. If you have a moisture problem in your hair, this is a really great mask to use to replenish that moisture. I got this in a BoxyCharm also. This is the, or maybe I got it in a FabFitFun. This is the Aromatherapy Associates De-Stress Muscle Gel, and it's kind of this like eucalyptus kind of, it reminds me of Icy Hot, only it doesn't, you know, get icy or hot. It just smells like it. But this was a de-stress gel for tired muscles, and I found that I actually quite love this. This works so good. I get really super tight in my shoulders and my neck area, and this does a really good job of like just helping me relax in those areas. I also had the Coolest Sport face sunscreen in here, and I still truly do love this. This is, I've got 2 bottles over there. These are new bottles, not the ones that existed here because, you know, SPF. These, I do think that this one might be expired this last summer, but I also have another one over there. This is something now that I've been getting in gratis an awful lot, to be honest. It goes on like a moisturizer, like a lotion that it doesn't leave any kind of white cast. It's just a really beautiful facial sunscreen, and I haven't burned on my face in years, and I do 100% believe a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have a really healthy skincare routine these days, and it incorporates sunscreen every single day. But I really did love this. I like this under makeup. I like this not under makeup. I think that when I'm wearing it on its own, it also does a really good job of just kind of helping my skin look healthy. So even though it doesn't have any like color to it, it does have white tea in it, and I think that that does a really good job of helping your skin look less puffy and red. So I love this product. Actually, Kula has not always, Kula sunscreen specifically has not always been my favorite thing. There is a facial spray that I absolutely hate by Kula, but I do love that. I have a couple of brushes in here, the Morphe M501 and the It Cosmetics Airbrush Crease Brush. This is still that same airbrush crease brush, and I do love this brush. It's so soft and beautiful, but I think this is probably the first high-end brush that I had in my collection. And while I still like it, I still love it. I think it's still a great brush. I don't hardly ever use it anymore because I have found that even as small as this is, it was too firmly packed for me to blend really well, and I found smaller, more precise blending brushes that I like better. And then this one is the M501 by Morphe, and this isn't the first one, but way back then I bought like the James Charles Morphe brush kit and had a ton of them. I'm not sure that this is my favorite brush, to be honest. I'm not sure why it sheds so bad. And then you have these like black, and this is like the third one that I have tossed and then reopened another because I bought that big James Charles kit. And if you remember correctly, it had like multiples of the same brushes over and over again. I wouldn't repurchase this brush, even though they're like only $6 a piece or whatever they are. I wouldn't repurchase this brush. It's nothing to go on, stand on your molehill and say is the best brush on the planet. It is, I think, built for highlight, and it does a good job of like dispensing product all over the place, not necessarily, for that detailed like place that you want. That I do like it for dispensing product, but I hate it because it sheds. It doesn't matter if it's new or old or whatever. You're gonna have little black hairs all over your face, and that is the truth of all Morphe brushes, I truly feel like. But have been using this one recently for powder underneath my eye. I feel like it does a good job of that. Using it for less sparkly, less dense kind of product makes it easier just to wipe away those black hairs also. So there's that. I also had an e.l.f. smudge brush in here. I remember this smudge brush, and I love this smudge brush, but smudge brushes are a dime a dozen. They all act the same way, I firmly feel like, but I no longer have very many e.l.f. brushes in my collection because I just, when you start in this and they're like, you don't need expensive brushes to do jobs. You don't. But it is crazy to me how easily and how much better makeup applies when you are using a brush that is quality made brush. It's not saying e.l.f. brushes are shit brushes, because I do firmly feel like they're better than the Morphe brushes, but I now have like Sigma and Esam and those kind of brushes in my collection, and I think that the makeup I apply with those brushes is far better applied than the makeup with the other cheaper brushes. With that said, I loved this e.l.f. smudge brush, but I think that you could get any kind of smudge brush and it's going to do the same thing. Specifically, that brush. I had the Smashbox Radiance Primer. This is Smashbox's version of Versailles Unicorn Tears or whatever. It's just a Radiance Glowy primer. I did like that primer. I haven't purchased it since I quit using that primer, so it's obviously not that big of a deal. I did not love the texture of that primer because I don't really 100% love a glowy silicone-y primer, because then it's glowy and slippery, and I don't feel like my makeup stays in the spots that I want it to. Tarte Clay Stick Foundation. I decluttered this last year, I think, And I decluttered it because after it was in here as a favorite, I really found that it just was so thick and it went on my skin so thick. There are far better stick foundations out there than that Tarte Amazonian Clay Stick Foundation. I would not repurchase that. There isn't a whole lot of complexion from Tarte that I love, though. So if you're a Tarte complexion fan, you would probably love it. Then I had a Bobbi Brown Extra Repair Foundation. I don't even remember this, if I'm honest. I think it was a sample that I received in like a mystery box that I had purchased on eBay. And then I have the Too Faced Sculpting Concealer. I did love that concealer, but these days I was just starting out in makeup application for base products at this point, and I just don't love concealer. And this one was a great concealer, but I think it was also a very heavy concealer. It reminds me a lot of what Shape Tape is. I wouldn't repurchase that, but it's a great concealer if that's what you're into, and if you like Tarte Shape Tape, you would love that concealer as well. It's just maybe a little bit more emollient, just a little bit more liquidy, but has the same coverage, and I feel like has the same kind of dry down effect and staying power that the Tarte Shape Tape does. I also have on here the Too Faced Papa Don't Peach blush. I just decluttered this last year. Beautiful blush. I love this blush. The only reason why I decluttered it is because at the time that I started my makeup journey, I was holding all my makeup in the bathroom and it had like water damage to it. Not not water damage, I guess, but moisture damage to it. So I did declutter that. Beautiful blush though. Marc Jacobs Night Moves Lip Crayon and the Tarte Lip Surgeons Lip Crayon. I still have versions of these two lip crayons in my collection. I love these. Their lip crayons are just so easy to apply. And these two, I feel like, do amazing things to my lips as well. Like this one, I don't feel like the Marc Jacobs one, and this one isn't in Night Moves. Night Moves. This one is in Send Moves or Send Nudes. Send Nudes? Send Nudes. Send Nudes is what this one is in. I don't feel like this one is as like emollient or lip filling as the Lip Surgeons one, but I do feel like both of them are just beautiful. Like, look at, they're just so pretty. They're just so pretty. And you can tell that the one from Tarte, the Lip Surgeons one, is a little bit more glossy, has a lot more glossiness to it, and this one's a little bit more matte. But I do feel like they beautifully go on the lips and just look so good. I think that this one doesn't look as good as the Lip Surgeons one because it is more of a matte formula, but they're so beautiful, and I still have those products, but they're different than the two that I was discussing in this video. So obviously they are products that I really truly loved. So with that said, that is all the favorites and flops that I talked to you guys about in June and July of 2018. I love doing these, like, revisiting or going into the Wayback Machine and finding the products that we loved way back in the day and kind of questioning, right? Interrogating the reality of what was going on in that time frame. Like, I don't remember some of these products. So what does that tell you about me and my venture into faves and flops back in the day? Like, I should never have been doing those videos, but it was a way for me to have a video. At that time, I couldn't think of what to do and was really new into this makeup stuff. So I really enjoy going through these to really recenter on what truly still remains in my collection, what I truly still love. And like in terms of like things like this palette or like this, you learn something new every single day. I'm glad to know that this is a remover and not a primer. Good to know. I might decide that I love it all over again. So let me know what products you still have in your collection that you remember purchasing eons ago. And even if you're not doing it and, you know, for all the world to see. What do you remember bringing into your collection way back when that you don't even know why it was a favorite for you these days? I would sure be interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks for joining us today. I really do hope that you guys liked the video, that you give it a thumbs up if you did, that you'll subscribe before you go, because I'd love to welcome you into my crazy YouTube fam here. I also hope that you and yours are healthy, that you're staying safe, that you're doing well, and that you're getting along as best you can out there. I hope that you all are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. My daughter does this to me these days and wants me to connect the heart, and I can never, I'm like, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And until next time, bye friends.